everybody, Loto for Life here, bringing you guys a brand new deck profile. This time around it is my Crystron's past, well, post, after, whatever the word is, after Raging Tempest. So, Raging Tempest gave Crystron's their last support that we know that they're going to be getting for a while, and this new support is really good, along with, honestly, I think that Crystron's are honestly a pretty decent low-tier deck. But anyways, before I just start rambling, let's get on to the actual deck profile. First and foremost, 3 of Crystron this turn. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This turn is basically the Searcher. So all Crystron non-tuners, with the exception of one of them, has the effect of where you can destroy a face-up card you control, spell summon a Crystron tuner from your deck. This turn also has the effect of in Graveyard, where you can banish him, add a Crystron monster from your deck to your hand. Every Crystron non-tuner, with the exception of one, also has some kind of effect in Graveyard, this turn being, of course, the Searcher. So he's really, really good. 15 by 15, pretty decent stats, and he becomes 1800 with the field spell. Pretty good for a level 3, honestly, like in terms of stat power and just being able to search and special and everything. Next up is Crystron Smiter. He, again, like every other non-tuner, with the exception of one, has the effect of where you can pop a face-up card, spell summon a tuner, and then, of course, if he's in Graveyard, you can banish him to add a Crystron spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. Funnily enough, even though it specifies spell or trap, there's no spells for the archetype, unless you count the field spell, even though it's not technically a Crystron spell. Kind of stupid. But anyways, really, really good just being able to grab your traps and stuff. The Crystron traps are pretty good, although they're not like super amazing to the point where you gotta play 3 of you both. Although I do play 3 of one of them. Anyways, so next up is 3 Crystron Rion. I've been debating between 2 and 3 of him like a lot, because honestly, out of all the Crystron tuners, he's kind of like the least used. So during your opponent's main phase or battle phase, you can special summon one non-tuner from your banish zone, and then immediately go into a machine type synchro monster. Couldn't remember the word for a second here. And then the materials, including him and the non-tuner, go back to the deck. They get shuffled back into the deck. And so that's pretty good, but however, really honestly, it's only good for like mid to late game. Crystron's banish a crap ton, but however, they typically need their stuff. That it typically doesn't happen till like mid to late game for whenever Rion really becomes that useful, in my experience. Now that being said, though, he's still pretty good for going into other synchros and stuff. He's a level 3 tuner, so he's pretty decent. Also, is it just me, or does he look like the Predator from Aliens vs. Predator and, well, the Predator movie series? He looks a lot like him. Next up is 3 Crystron Praesiordal. Praesiordal is pretty good. Like the other non-tuners, he has effect where you can pop him or any other face-up card, spell summon a tuner from your deck. And then in the Graveyard, you can banish him, spell summon any Crystron monster from your hand. Really, really, really good effect, just being able to do combo plays during your turn, which is something this deck doesn't do very much. This deck is very much disruption based and is totally reliant on doing stuff during the opponent's turn. So Praesiordal allows you to actually do stuff during your turn a lot more consistently, which this deck doesn't really get to do a lot of. Next up is probably the best tuner in the deck, honestly, is Crystron Citri. So Citri, during your opponent's main phase or battle phase, you can special summon a, actually I think it might just be during your opponent's turn. Yeah, during main phase or battle phase. Once per turn, you can just special summon a non-tuner from your graveyard and then immediately go into a machine type synchro using Citri and that non-tuner. And then Citri and a non-tuner are banished. So typically you want to go for a 4 or a 5. Sometimes you do go for a 6, not often, but it does happen. So she is really, really good just being able to do that. And heck, getting your stuff banished makes Rion live, makes one of the trap cards live. It just does all this sorts of stuff. And is a very, very, very good card overall. And then finally for the last tuner, well, the last Crystron tuner, Crystron Quan. He basically does the same thing as Rion and Citri, but does it from the hand. So, hey, you can special summon a non-tuner from your hand, immediately go for a synchro summon for a machine type synchro. The materials are sent to the graveyard, whereas Citri banishes them and Rion shuffles them back into the deck. So they kind of do a loop thing where Quan special summons it from hand, Citri special summons them from grave, and then Rion puts them back in deck, which is very, very nice. Just being able to kind of do that kind of like loop kind of thing. But however, it's not like the Gusto loop where it goes on forever. Next up for the non-Crystron stuff, we have Blackwing Gofu the Vague Shadow. I couldn't really read his name for a second there. So Gofu is really good just for setting up stuff. You can pop the tokens, and then also with him and the level 5, which we will get to here shortly, he allows access to Ultimize Zoken, which can allow for all sorts of fun plays. Gofu, you rarely use them for an actual synchro summon, you just mainly use them to facilitate your non-tuner effects without destroying your non-tuners. One True King Bastimus the Favomir. So True King here, he works really, really well in this deck. I really like him in the deck. So basically, you can destroy 2 other monsters to special summon them from your hand. One of them has to be a water, but if you destroy 2 waters, and everything in this deck except for the Blackwing is water, you get to banish 2 spell or trap cards on your opponent's field or in their graveyard, which is really, really good. Now, the big reason why I play them is to, well, get your non-tuners in the graveyard so you can use the non-tuners effects. But the other nice thing is being able to get rid of your opponent's back row, which this deck has a hard time dealing with, and also, of course, being a 3k wall, which your opponent is going to have to get over at some point. So, really, really, really good card for the deck. I like him a lot. He's really helpful, and he's helped me out a lot. He gets your stuff engraved, gets rid of stuff. I like it a lot. As a one-of. I've also tested out 1, 2, and 3 of them. Just playing more than one just makes it where you can see them more often, and there's really no reason to. I have a really tough time with the deck space in this deck. Next up is the new guy, Crystron Sulfonier. I've seen some people play 2. I personally prefer 1 because he can revive himself. So Sulfonier, he's level 5, 2k attack, 1500 defense. Really, really nice stats on a level 5. You can discard another Crystron card from your, to special summon this card from your hand or graveyard, which is pretty nice, but then afterwards you gotta destroy a face-up card you control, which is incredibly annoying if Sulfonier is the only one. But if Sulfonier dies, you get to special summon a Crystron, I believe, is it Tuner? You can special summon 1 Crystron monster from your deck, so it's just any monster. So even if you do summon him by himself, you get to summon out another dude because you have to pop him, which isn't all that bad. Now, of course, as I said earlier, this guy, he can revive himself from your graveyard, which is really nice. He gets your stuff engraved, he summons out stuff from deck, and also him plus Gofu equals to Zoken, which is really, really nice, and it's always fun to do. Then finally for the monsters, I have 1 Crystron Rosenix. I used to play him at 2, and heck, I even used to play him at 3, but then I dropped him down to 1 because he's just not that great. He's only really good if you have if he's in hand and you have Quan out. He makes the level 5 Crystron tuner, Synchro, and other than that, he's just not that great. I mean, he has the engrave effect where you can banish him, get a token, but the token you don't really use very much, except for like making Formula Synchron, which I dropped. So, really, honestly, Rosenix is just not that great of a card. Heck, I would argue you can even play him. You can even play without him in the deck, but I still like him being able to make the level 5 Synchro with Quan and Rosenix. So, now then, onto the spells. First and foremost, I have 3 of the Crystron's field spell card. This card is pretty good. It gives all of your Crystrons 300 more attack points. And also, during the end phase, you get to draw 1 card for every time that you Synchro Summon a Crystron Synchro monster. I believe it has to be with different names. Let me double check that. Nope, does not have to be with different names. So if you Synchro Summon, like for instance, Quandax 3 times, you get to draw 3 cards, even though you only Synchro Summon the same monster a few times. And it goes for even your turn or your opponent's turn, so if you Synchro Summon during your turn, you get to draw a card or 2. Typically speaking, you won't draw more than 1 or 2 cards, because it just you don't really Synchro Summon that much in this deck, even though you do Synchro Summon a lot. It's kind of hard to explain. Like, you Synchro Summon a lot over time, but you don't Synchro Summon a lot in 1 turn. So, really, honestly, this card will usually give you 1 or 2 cards. It really helps, though, being able to maintain your hand advantage, because this deck burns through your hand really, 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 really fast. So being able to just get back your stuff pretty easily is nice. Not to mention that attack boost has come in handy more times than I could count. Next up, Triple Supply Squad. Since everybody can destroy themselves, and heck, Sulfonier can destroy other things, you will be destroying stuff a lot. So hey, being able to draw cards whenever that happens just allows you to plus even more. So really, really good card for this deck. I absolutely recommend playing 3 of it. It just is so nice. And heck, with this and the field spell, you can draw like 6 cards in one turn. Granted though, that doesn't happen too often, but hey, you will get to draw a lot. Crystron Exodia, no. Next up, 2 Terraforming starts out the field spell, pretty self-explanatory. 2 Twin Twister. As I said earlier, this deck loses to back row pretty hard, so being able to get rid of your back row and fill up your graveyard with your non-tuner so you can use their effects is really, really nice. 1 Machine Duplication, mostly for Praise the Yordle, but however you can also use it on the tuners. I don't recommend doing it on the tuners because each of their effects is only once a turn, so unless you plan on synchroing during your turn, don't do it on the tuners very often. But doing this to play, activating this, targeting Praise the Yordle is really, really, really stupid good. It just doesn't come up that often, so I only play 1. I used to play 2, but it would just dead draw so much. 1 Fool's Burial, mostly just simply to get stuff in your graveyard, but hey, you can put anybody you need in grave. Oh hey, want to search off a this turn? Send this turn. It's really, really, really good overall in this deck. Now then, for the traps, I play 3 Crystron Impact. This card is amazing. Okay, target one of your banished Crystrons, special summon it, and then all of your opponent's monsters have their defense become 0. I know that seems kind of weird, but it'll make sense once we get to one of the synchros. And then if it's in the graveyard, except during the turn it was sent there, which drives me nuts. If a Crystron monster you control is targeted by a card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, negate, and destroy that card. So, really, really, really good. I just wish the graveyard effect was did not have the breakthrough skill clause on it, which is annoying, but oh well. And then 2 Crystron entries. So mostly use this for the graveyard effect, not so much for the actual activation on field effect. So whenever you activate it, you can special summon 1 Crystron tuner from your hand, 1 Crystron tuner from your graveyard. Actually, that's its effect. You have to do that. So it's really good for mid to late game. And then if it's in your graveyard, you can banish it during your player's turn, target a Crystron you control, and that Crystron, you send another Crystron from your deck to the graveyard, and that Crystron that you targeted has its level become the one that you sent. So if you want to go for a 6, you can like target Citri, send this turn, Citri will become level 3, Citri effect, special summon this turn, go for level 6. Pretty good. I mostly use its effect during my turn so that I can then go into more synchros that I want to be able to go into. But doing it during your opponent's turn is also pretty nice. Now then, for the synchros. Whoops. Yeah, there we go. 3 Crystron Quandex. This guy is the main tuner. Well, actually, he's the only synchro tuner in the deck, and he is really, really good. So he is 1800 by 2000. He's a tuner and a non-tuner to go into, and level 4 synchro tuner, really, really good in general. Heck, if I had a Crystal Wing, I'd be playing him in this deck because this guy lets you go into Crystal Wing. Same thing with Cyframe Lord Omega, neither of which I have. I don't have the money for either of those. But if you do have Cyframe Lord Omega and a Crystal Wing, I do highly, highly, highly recommend playing those two in this deck, especially since Quandex allows you to go into them. Even more so, he allows you to go into them during your opponent's turn because his effect is once per turn in your opponent's turn, you can Synchro Summon using this guy and any other non-tuners you control to go for a Synchro Summon during your opponent's turn. He's basically Formula Synchron, but level 4 instead of level 2. Additionally, if he is destroyed by battle or card effect, and, well, provided he was Synchro Summoned, you can then special summon a non-tuner Crystron monster from your graveyard. I mean, sorry, not non-tuner, non-synchro Crystron monster from your graveyard. God. So, yeah, really, really good being able to recur stuff, and also just being able to synchro during your opponent's turn is really nice. Next up, 3 Crystron Amatrix. Basically, if this guy is Synchro Summoned, you can shove every single one of your opponent's special summon monsters into defense position. That's the reason for the 0 defense effect of Impact. And then he has the same effect as Quandex, where if he dies, you can special summon a non-synchro Crystron monster from your graveyard. And he's a level 5. And, well, if you add 4 and 5, you get the level 9 Crystron Phoenix. Phoenix is your main boss monster of the deck, being able to disrupt your opponent's spell and trap plays, being able to just basically, generally speaking, the goal of the deck is to get these 2 out, then whenever your opponent's doing stuff during their turn, use Quandex effect synchro with these 2 into Phoenix, which is really, really, really mean, because when Phoenix is synchro summoned, he banishes all of your opponent's spells and traps that they have in their graveyard and on their field. So like, let's say if you're doing against Metal Foes, for instance, and they have their pendulum skills, they did a whole bunch of their pendulum effects, set stuff, then you know they're going to go for their pendulum summon next. You just activate the effect, synchro into Phoenix, and then Phoenix effect banishing all the stuff that they just searched out and their pendulum skills. Very, 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 very mean card. I absolutely love it. And then if he dies, you can special summon any Crystron monster. Actually, I think it's any monster from your graveyard. Yeah, one other monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So, if you even have, you can loop them. Well, you can't because it has to be synchro summoned, dude, and then die. But, like, for instance, if one dies, okay, then special summon another from grave. Pretty good. And then we got two of the new guy. Crystron. Okay, bear with me here. Quarion Gondrax. He's also level 9, but the big reason why you only play 2 instead of 3, even though this guy is technically better than Phoenix, is because this guy needs 2 non-tuners and 2 tuners and a non-tuner to go into. So this guy is very much a double tuning synchro monster, and he's a pain in the butt to go into. I know a lot of people use Steam Synchron to go into him more easily, but Steam Synchron's not out in TCG, and if he is, I've never seen a copy of him. So, yeah, he's hard to make over here in TCG. So basically what this guy does is, if he is synchro summoned, you can banish any number of monsters in your opponent's graveyard or on their field, up to the number of synchro materials that were used for a synchro summon, because I do believe you can use... yeah, sorry, 2 or more tuners and then 1 non-tuner. Wow, so if you really want to be creative, you can use 3 tuners to go into them. But generally speaking, you do only use 2. And then, of course, he has the same dying effect where, oh, hey, you can just special summon actually, I think, he special summons it from the banish zone for some reason. So if he dies, you can special summon a banished monster from your, well, banish zone, which is pretty cool, I guess, but it, again, doesn't really happen very much because he usually wins you the game at that point. Especially if you go into him during your opponent's turn, which isn't easy to do, to be completely honest. Like, you need Quandary, you need Quandax, to easily go into him during your opponent's turn. You need Quandax, there's a level 4, he's level 9. So, yeah, you need Quandax, like Quan, that'd be 5, then like Rosenix, that'd be 9. So, yeah, he's not the easiest to go into, but he is pretty good if you do get him off. Generally speaking, though, you usually synchro into him during your turn. Not in for a level 6, I play High Speed Word Kendama. He's really, really good just being able to revive him. His banishing effect is really nice too, being able to banish a dude from your graveyard, burn your opponent for 500. That has won me games. I love it. And hey, he has piercing, which is nice. 1 Stardust Dragon and 1 Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend. The reason being that I play these 2 is that I don't have a Crystal Wing, and yeah. So I need some sort of target for Ultimaya Zozoken. So generally speaking, if you have if you have Crystal Wing, and especially if you have 2, just swap these 2 out for Crystal Wing, because I couldn't think of anything better to replace for Ultimaya's targeting, for Ultimaya's effect. So, yeah, that is the deck profile, guys. Thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a great day. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. See you all later, and peace out.